Welcome to Chapter 8 of the Adquio web interface. On this occasion, we are going to see the alerts. For this, we are going to divide this chapter into two parts. We are going to talk about alerts of their types and how to interpret them. And we will see how to configure automatic alerts. I anticipate that from programming, we can also create alerts, but as this is something more advanced, we will see it in the module dedicated exclusively to programming. Go for it. As always, first of all, let's see how to get to the alerts from the Adquio menu. We are in the main screen, which we reach every time we connect to the Adquio web interface, and to get to the alerts, we will go to the menu, and we can see it directly here, Alerts. Let's see that we have the Alerts section, and the section to configure automatic alerts. This section is the next one that we will see in this chapter. We are going to see then the columns that we have in the alerts, and we are going to explain, step by step, what each one corresponds to. The first thing we have is a column with an indicator, which tells us if the alert is active or not. We will see later that the alerts have a date, time or expiration time, and we will also see that active alerts, those with this indicator on, always appear at the top of this list, right? In this way, we will see them much more easily. Well, since we look all gray, it means that these alerts are already expired. We see it easily, because this alert is from January 4th, and today we are at the 10th, that is, it is a week ago, so it has expired, and that is why the indicator is deactivated, right? Okay, the next column is the priority. We are going to see that in Adquio, the priorities of the alerts are from 0 to 10, the lower the number, the more important the alert is. So, we see that here is an alert that is important. Okay, next column is the type of the alert. We are going to define this type, and it is highly recommended that we organize these alerts with a category before starting to define alerts. To group them into common types, for example, by a similar origin. So, in this case we see that external storage that will indicate, we will see later, some problem with the external storage of the Adquio. You know that they have a 32 GB high-endurance microSD card, and in the case of the Adquio Mini, well, it also has a 32 GB USB. Then, this alert would be telling us that microSD card, or that USB is not being recognized or has been extracted. The next column is start of the alarm. Why do we have a start and an end of the alarm? If it is an alarm, we could only have the date and time of the alarm, when it occurred, right? Well, we have a beginning and an end, because in Adquio alarms are not only created when the alarm occurs, but they can be updated. Why do we do this? Well, we do this because otherwise, a device, for example, that was out of service, would be creating multiple alarm lines for us. It would fill this list with repeated alarms, for example, every 5 seconds, which is when Adquio will try to read from him. So, what is done in those cases is that, if the alarm that is going to be displayed is exactly the same as another that is already in the list, what is done, simply updates the time of the last update, and recycles it, for to say in a way, the same alert that we already had created. We did not create a new one in this list, right? If that alert did not occur again from a specific moment, as you can see, the FFN date is 5 seconds after the last update, because it was the last time this alert happened. This was the last time the device gave an error, right? So, we have a start date, when the first alert of this type occurred, a date of the last update, if it were alive, and with this indicator on, we would have nothing in this column. Let's go to the next column. It expires after, in this case, 62,000 milliseconds. It puts it here, which is counted in milliseconds. And, this is also very important, especially that, when we launch alerts, we set a consistent value. If this alert, we know that we are consulting the device every 5 seconds. If it gave us an error, it would be updating here every 5 seconds. Therefore, the alert would be renewed, and it would never reach 10 seconds. When will it reach 10 seconds? Well, when it is active in this list, without updating, during those 10 seconds. What would that mean? That the device is no longer offline, or that the device is already working, although this formula is no longer giving an error. The next column is data, and this is the simplest of all. It is where we receive the message of what is happening. In the event that it is an alarm launched by ourselves, we will have created this message ourselves, therefore we must strive to make it as explicit as possible. In the case that it is a system alarm, it will indicate, as for example in this case, external storage not present or failing. It tells us that it is not finding the external micro SD, or the USB that all the Adquios have installed at the factory. The dynamic data column is used in the alarm system to provide additional information on errors. Here, we have an example in which Adquio has unexpectedly restarted, possibly due to some test, because we had already said that this Adquio is an Adquio in which we are constantly working, and it indicates to us, in this case, how long it had been on. If it is an error that, for example, occurs in one of the scripts that we have written here, it will indicate additional information, so that we have more accurate clues of what is happening. For example, if a variable is out of range here, it could tell us what variable it is, or if a mathematical operation has failed, it could also tell us what type of operation, etc., to help us locate that error. In the same way, errors from our own scripts may also appear in this alarm list, syntax errors, or errors that our scripts have not handled. When we look at programming, we will see that within the programming language itself, we have systems to manage errors. So, for example, if we are going to read from a device, protect that reading, so that, if the device fails, then, Adquio a decision accordingly, and that the system does not give an alarm, an error alarm. Then, we can decide between controlling errors of that type, or not controlling them, therefore they would arrive here as alarms. We have an example here, in which we can clearly see that, by clicking on the eye, in this column, it shows us much more extensive information than what we see in the description. Therefore, in this way we have much easier to discover where the error is and later solve it. One more important thing that I have not mentioned yet, is that every time a new alarm is added to this list, a window of an explicit color appears here. If it is a red window, it is a system error, right? So, if we are connected to the web interface, we will see clearly, for example, if we are programming, that windows with notifications will begin to appear in this lower part, in the lower right corner. In this way, we can read them directly there, and we will not have to come to the alerts option, and leave where we are. If more than one comes out simultaneously, they accumulate upwards and disappear, each one maintaining its exposure time. And the last column is tags. These labels will allow us to filter, for example. By system, I want to see only the system alarms, right? Then, we are filtering all the ones that have system. Those labels are put on automatically, we don't decide. We're going to remove the filter, and we're back to normal. All the types of system errors that we find here are fully defined in the Adquio manual. If, for example, we look for this, we have it here. It tells us that the external drive is in read-only mode or that it does not work. The external storage is configured, but the external SD card, or USB drive is failing, so please, find a replacement, and install it as soon as possible. Well, all these errors, you know that, we have them explained here. Well, with this we take the option of alerts by site simply that, we know that, as you can see, in this list of alerts, we have no way of doing anything with them, we can only consult them, and we will see in later chapters that, we can work on this list of alerts, since, from programming we can update them, or we can end them, right? In no time delete them, right? We then go to the next tab. Let's now see the automatic alerts configuration. We are going to create a new alert. It is very simple as you will see. At the moment, we only have one type of event, which is to monitor devices, so the event we have available is device status. We are going to select it, here more may appear in the future. We indicate the name of the device, in this case, we know that Adquio has one called I/O, which are its inputs and outputs integrated in the Adquio Pro version. And the threshold time indicates us below, which is the time that this event it has to happen for an alert to be generated. Then, the threshold time. The time that this error must occur for the alert to be generated, because for example, we are going to say that it is the error of the devices is a maximum of 2 seconds, that is, at least 2 seconds, if this device error occurs for more than 2 seconds, generating the alert. If an error occurs for only 1 second, well, maybe it was one-off interference. This interference, in the case of the example we are doing, would not make sense, because they are the inputs and outputs integrated in Adquio. It would be more logical with an external device, which we selected here, and that between it and Adquio, there is a bus susceptible to receiving interference, right? Simply this: what event do we want to monitor? Device status. The device identifier, which is the unique code. Do you remember what we gave to the devices? That is why it is important, because this way, when we indicate here, there is no doubt what it is. And, finally, the threshold time that he calls, which is how long this error must remain for this alarm to go off. As an example, we have put 2 seconds. We save it, and add it to our list. In addition to this, tell you that the alarms that are generated in Adquio automatically upload in real time to Adquio Cloud, and those that we consider appropriate, we can redirect them in real time also, immediately, by email to those responsible for that area. For example, we could redirect this alarm to change the micro SD card to this Adquio to the person in charge of the IT department, or maintenance. If we have an error in a probe, for example, we could redirect the mail, then to the person in charge of their conditioning, etc. In this way, what we achieve is that the alarms that are generated in Adquio not only remain here, in the interface, and simply in a red LED that lights up, which may be in a closed box and nobody gets to see it, rather these alarms transcend, they go up to the Adquio Cloud platform and this Adquio Cloud platform sends them by email. Therefore, any event of TH's type is notified immediately, if we want it, of course, to whoever we want. So, if an Adquio fails his SD card, well, due to degradation, because he has been recording data on it for many years, the person in charge will immediately receive an email indicating. Therefore, there is no excuse for not keeping the system working properly. We repeat that even if this happens, Adquio will continue to upload data to the platform exactly the same, and it will continue to work exactly the same programming and remote control in real time. Very good. Well, with this, we finished class number 8 of the Adquio Web Interface course. See you at the next.